don't think I will ever get tired of that. Until about a month or so ago, all of this ground out here was just bare dirt that had been rained on and tamped down from over the winter post-harvest. And now it's a thriving ecosystem of migratory birds, insects, amphibians, reptiles, rodents, you name it. And over the next several weeks, it's going to become home to one of the most widely grown crops in California, rice. 550,000 acres per year is grown in fields just like this all across California, totaling close to 5 billion pounds on average of edible food. In little towns like the one that I live and work in, pretty much vast majority of our industry and economy is built around farms such as these, whether it's the production of fertilizers or pesticides for use in the fields, or the selling or fixing of the machinery that we use to work all of these fields up, as well as all of the marketing and all the other production that comes with creating this crop. Now, the reason rice is grown in such flooded fields is it being a water grass of sorts, it doesn't mind having its feet wet, whereas a lot of the common weeds we have around here really hate it. So having the water be so deep cuts down on the amount of pesticides we have to use throughout the year by drowning the other weeds, is probably the best way to put it. If you just had an inch or so of water, or worse, bare ground showing, then you'd have a lot more of the more common weeds we have in this area germinate and thrive in the wet conditions, but not completely underwater conditions. So rice is one of the more unique crops in that it can be grown completely underwater. Generally, we want to keep it right around 4 to 6 inches or so of water. Some people have it a little bit deeper, but then the rice does start to struggle because it does need a certain amount of oxygen to survive, coming in and transpiring through its actual leaves instead of just taking it in through the water. But there's quite a journey to get to this point, and still quite a journey to go throughout the year. Let's start at the beginning though.
First things first, the fields need to be opened up to allow all of the excess moisture that has accumulated over the winter to evaporate. This also breaks up the ground and makes it nice and dry and crumbly for the levelers that will come into the field later. All of our tractors have GPS auto steer technology in them that allows us to set A and B lines across the field that makes the tractor drive straight at the push of a button. This leads to very little overlap and extremely increased efficiency. There's several different ways of initially opening up the ground, and we traditionally use about a 35-foot wide chisel that has springs on it to keep it from going too deep, because we don't want it to bog down the tractor. It just lightly scratches the ground enough to really get it nice and opened up. While the chisel is going, a second tractor pulls a ridger across the berms that divide the fields. This makes sure there's a nice solid barrier between the edges of the fields.
So like all of our other tractors, or at least the vast majority of them, everything we have has GPS auto steer on it. So all you gotta do, get lined up, press the button, and the tractor will drive itself in a straight line that we have it set on. That way you'll end up with very little overlap, and you have just a lot better efficiency.
While the widened chisel will work great for initially opening up the field, we need something that goes a little bit deeper and is a little bit heavier duty in order to truly get the field ready for leveling and fertilizing. So once the wider chisel is done, we swap it out for a heavier duty implement that has straight shanks on it with no springs that dig way down deep into the dirt and throw it to the side.
So for starters, we open up the field with the large chisel that doesn't go very deep. It basically just scratches the ground in order to turn over the dirt and get it to start drying. Because right now everything is still pretty muddy from all the rainstorms we've had. So we open up the ground and then we come back through with either a disc or a larger straight point chisel, straight shank, whatever you want to call it. So that's why we're in different clothes. That's what I'm doing now. We're opening up a little bit more, getting a little bit deeper, throwing the dirt a little bit. And it's kind of funny. We want to work everything up. We also want to smooth stuff out. So a couple of years ago, my dad and I spent, God, I don't know how many hours fabricating this huge roller that would hook up and lower down behind this implement. And it had all sorts of angle iron on it to kind of churn the dirt as it went. We had bearings, we had it all auto leveled, and it just never quite worked right. So we figured out a better way of smoothing everything behind the chisel. And that, hard to see on here, is to literally just dangle a giant I-beam behind this chisel on chains and just drag it along, and it works great. You can see this area right here has only been chiseled once. That area has been chiseled twice. So this is all a lot more rough, and that's nice and smooth. So it's funny how we over-engineered this piece of equipment, and then we fixed it by literally dragging a giant hunk of iron behind it. That's farming. So there's two hills I will die on when it comes to sandwiches. The first is a sandwich always tastes better when you're not the one who makes it. Doesn't matter. I don't know what it is, but if someone else makes a sandwich, it tastes infinitely better, even if you use the exact same ingredients. So my mother made me this sandwich. She put a little bit of love in it, and oh, it's the best. The second hill I will die on. The sandwich really only needs 3 ingredients. It needs meat, lettuce, and mayonnaise. Anything else, you're dolling it up a bit too much for my taste. So everyone makes fun of me for eating bland witches, is what they call them. I don't care. You don't need any. Cheese can help sometimes. No tomatoes, disgusting. No onions, completely ruins the sandwich. Maybe a pickle here and there if it's roast beef. Maybe a little avocado if you're feeling spicy. But no. Meat, mayonnaise, lettuce. That's all you need.
There's no really good way to turn around in the field while working it up that doesn't leave tire tracks or track tracks, but those will all be picked up by the leveler when they come through later. Another big reason why we work the fields twice and work them so deep is that when the aqua bar comes through that puts down anhydrous ammonia, a very widely used fertilizer in rice, the shanks will have a lot better time getting down deep into the soil, so that way the fertilizer will bind with the dirt and won't be gassed off into the atmosphere. One final reason to really work the ground up like this is to catch any mess-ups that might have happened, whether it's a pile of dirt left by the scraper or a large pile of straw left over from the harvester. But I wasn't on a scraper this year, so you can't blame me for that one, Dad.
So there's 2 things I find very ironic as I'm sitting here driving in circles and thinking. The first is how much I hated running tractor as a kid. I wanted to go out and play and hike and fish and do all sorts of teenage boy things. And now as an adult, with 2 children who I love very much, being able to sit by myself in the air conditioning for hours on end and just listen to whatever I want to do is quite cathartic.
Getting the ground worked up is one of the most important jobs of the year, so we have to keep going even when it's really hot.
The air conditioner has stopped working in this tractor.
Or when a random thunderstorm decides to drop a 1/3 of an inch of rain in 30 minutes on you.
Such a strange year. I've never been rained on while working up rice ground before. There's a huge flash of lightning quite close. So thankfully the tractor's grounded, right? To talk about with aircraft flying by your instruments, that's basically what I'm doing right now with the GPS. That's the only way I'm able to tell which line I'm on, because I can't see anything through the windows and the windshield wipers are just completely cooked. This is insane. Well, looks like I am done for the day because there's no way I'm getting anything more done in this. Tractor's just gonna start sliding and I gotta get in my truck before I get out of it. I gotta get in my truck and get out of here before I get stuck.
Thankfully, this late into spring, the ground is dried out enough that any sort of moisture gets absorbed and released very quickly. So we were only shut down for about a day or so of work. And after waiting a full night, we were right back at it the next morning. The next step in the planting process involves using laser levelers, as they used to be called, or land scrapers or triplanes, whatever you want to call them, to drive around and pull the dirt behind us. This breaks up any very large clods left over from the opening up process, as well as makes the ground quite level. These tractors use a combination of GPS and RTK, which stands for Global Positioning System, and real-time kinematics. Think of RTK as a triangulation of sorts between the tractor, the satellites, and a base station that is set in a fixed position somewhere up in the state. RTK allows us to precision level all of our rice fields, which is crucial when you're going to be filling them with water, and you especially don't want any islands of dirt poking up. As mentioned in the intro to this video, if you have any single island of dirt staying up, there will be weeds that will be growing on it for sure, and every farmer in the entire valley will make fun of you every time they drive past. Once the fields have been smoothed and leveled, that's when we call in for help with the aqua team. We want the fields to be as easy as possible for them to drive on, so that way their aqua bar is not jumping in and out of the dirt and spraying fertilizer everywhere. The last thing we want is to over-fertilize, under-fertilize, or spray aqua ammonia out into the field.
So rice, like all crops, takes a lot of different fertilizers, but the number one fertilizer it takes is aqua ammonia, which is essentially just water and nitrogen. You will see significant yield loss if you do not use nitrogen on your crops. Aqua ammonia, if you've ever smelled like regular ammonia, is very, very potent. It'll clear your sinuses out in a hurry when it hits your nose. So I'm going to be staying upwind of these guys as they're going, because otherwise it doesn't just clear your nostrils out, it kind of closes your throat down in a way. It's nasty stuff, but the crops like it.
Once the aqua has finished being applied to the field, it's time for the last tractor to start making its rounds. A big heavy roller is pulled behind it that tamps down any dirt clods that might have been left over, as well as forms nice tight little grooves into the dirt. These grooves will help catch the rice seeds so that way they're not blown around in the wind or the water as it works its way across the field. My mother and I always talk about how much we love seeing all of the rice ground be completely finished with rolling. It's just a sign that our month-long sprint is finished and that soon the farm will no longer be bare dirt, but flooded rice fields full of lush, green plant life.
Everything's been worked up, everything's been leveled, everything's been fertilized, and everything's been rolled. So, time has come to turn on the water and start flooding the rice fields. I think this is legitimately the first time I've ever been the one to first open a screw gate and flood a field, which is just something very minor, but as someone who didn't really want to farm when I was a younger lad, I don't know. It kind of makes me think. Here we go.
The water for our fields soon spreads across it, delivered through underground pipes established many, many years ago that flow from a canal way up into the hills. It can take several days to flood an entire field of rice, and not all of the water comes directly from underground pipes. Some of it comes directly from a canal through a screw gate that just goes underneath the road. Some of our rice fields are also fed from deep underground wells.
So the water from our rice fields comes from either the canal or a well. And the best part about running our wells in the summertime, pure, clean water you can just come get a drink of. Oh God, absolute best tasting water you'll ever find. So it's pretty rudimentary, but the water levels in all of these fields are maintained through a system of drop boxes, which are essentially concrete weirs with very thin pieces of wood in them that block up the water like a dam. This one's completely blocked up because we are getting ready to spray this entire field for insects called shrimp. They're not quite shrimp. They're right here. They're like horseshoe crabs, my nemesis. But they like to do these little underwater dances that will tear up the root of the rice and cause it to float to the top, essentially killing the seed. So we're getting ready to spray for them and getting ready to spray a kind of pre-emergent herbicide, which will keep weeds from actually germinating. It will keep weeds from germinating in these fields. And in order to spray that legally, we have to block up all of our water and hold the water so that it doesn't go out into the water supply for the rest of the state. You can see this drop box right here is running nice and full. So we're trying to fill up this check right now, take a little water out of this check, and when this one gets to the proper level we want it at, we'll put another board in here, stop it up, stop up the other check down there, and probably turn down the water a bit, because we really only run the water full blast into these fields when we're trying to flood them or really bring the water level up. Once we get them to a good maintained level of water in the fields, we'll turn the water supply incoming into the field way down, and we'll stop all of these drop boxes up to essentially maintain and level everything out.
The final step in the rice planting process is, of course, putting on the seed into the field. The fastest and most efficient way of applying rice seed to the field is to hire a crop duster. These ag pilots, lovingly referred to by some as flyboys, pilot huge planes with wide wingspans and a hopper underneath them to store fertilizer, pesticide, or rice seed. These pilots also utilize GPS to make sure they fly nice straight lines and apply the correct amount of seed that we need per acre.
Plane's getting ready to fly over right now, which is why I'm kneeling down on the ground, although I'm in no danger whatsoever. Trust the pilot fully, but watch and you'll be able to see the rice being dispersed and sprinkling across the water as it goes. It's just so cool to see it coming down. I think one of the most unique things about farming is that I have several friends that have never even flown on an airplane before in their entire life for fun, pleasure, or work, and having them buzz right over my head. Just another part of everyday life out here. So you can see I was talking about the rolling job and about how it tamps down the clods as well as create grooves. You can see all the rice is caught in that groove, so now when the wind comes up, it won't blow them out of the way where they could get uprooted. For more information on rice and how it's grown, especially in California, as well as recipes and other great information on it, go ahead and check out the California Farm Bureau and the California Rice Commission, both of which I'm not directly affiliated with. I just think they're great organizations that you should go check out. So yeah, that's how rice is planted from beginning to end. If you guys enjoyed this video, consider giving it a like, consider subscribing. Got a lot more great farming content coming, a lot more great search and rescue content coming on the Northwind Aerial channel. Thanks for watching. See you next time.
If you watched this video from beginning to end, first off, thank you. Second off, enjoy the shots I got of the Aurora Borealis last week as a treat.
Thank you.